and welcome to TechFunnel.com's interview series. My name is Danny White, and today we have joining us Dan Gingiss. Dan's 20-year career has consistently focused on delighting customers, spanning multiple disciplines, including customer experience, marketing, social media, and customer service. He has held leadership positions at 3 Fortune 300 companies, Discover, Humana, and McDonald's. He's also an international keynote speaker who believes that a remarkable customer experience can be your best marketing. Dan is the author of the book, Winning at Social Customer Care, How Top Brands Create Engaging Experiences on Social Media, a host of the Experience This Show podcast, and a regular contributor to Forbes. He has been named to several notable industry lists, including Top Customer Service Influencers of 2018 by Fit Small Business, and 50 social media marketing influencers to follow by Top Rank Marketing. Dan earned a BA in psychology and communications from the University of Pennsylvania and an MBA in marketing from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. He is a lifelong Chicago Cubs fan, a licensed bartender, and a pinball wizard. Welcome, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Danny. This is actually the first time that I have been interviewed by another Danny, because when I was a kid, I was called Danny as well.
Oh, that is super interesting. Very cool. So you talk a lot about customer care and creating amazing customer experiences. So what does an excellent customer experience really look like in the digital age?
Well, the digital age, much like the analog age, involves making sure that every step along the customer journey is an experience. And so what's happened with a lot of big companies is they're so siloed in how they're organized that the customer ends up feeling the pain of that as they're going through a digital experience. So they go from one page on a website, which is owned by one part of the organization, and then they click through and they get to another page on the website or on the mobile app that's owned by a different part of the organization. And sometimes you see things as obvious as different color schemes and different user experience. But often what's missing is the transition, because if I work in one of those silos, I'm responsible for making sure that that piece is a great experience. But generally speaking, what I haven't done is watched where the customer came from and where they're going next to make sure that that transition is really clean. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that is facing companies today when it comes to digital customer experience.
Awesome. So social media requires a completely different set of rules to succeed. What are some of the key steps that marketers can take to really win at social customer care?
Well, the first thing is that marketers have to work with the customer service team. So social media came onto the scene as a marketing channel. It was first looked at as a broadcast channel, and companies were literally putting their television commercials on Facebook, thinking that that's what consumers wanted to see. They quickly realized that the more marketing that they do, especially when they put paid media behind it, the more commentary they get back from their customers and their followers. And that commentary is not always about the marketing that we're putting out there. Right? So sometimes, because of the interruptive nature of social media, I'm scrolling through my Facebook feed and boom, there's an ad there that's interrupting my feed, of posts that I want to see. Because of that interruptive nature, it often causes people to say, oh man, I've been meaning to call that company because they overcharged me on my last bill or whatever it is. Even though the advertisement is about something completely different, it sparks that response. So marketers have to be aware of that, and they've got to work hand in hand with the customer service team, because if they don't, what happens is we amp up our paid media, which means we get the marketing in front of more eyeballs, which means we get more commentary on our posts, which means the customer service team gets overwhelmed, which then the customers are waiting too long for a response because there's not enough people hired to handle the influx of inquiries. And so it creates a negative experience, even if it's not intentional. But when you sort of look at what's the reason behind it, it all comes back to that paid marketing.
So how do you help marketers and customer service professionals go through that workflow together?
Well, what you just said is really important, and it seems kind of obvious, but it doesn't happen. Is together. And I am fortunate that I have experience on both sides. So I am a marketer. And when I talk about customer service and customer experience, it comes from a marketer's perspective. So when I work with companies, I am credible because I've sat in the seats of those same digital marketers before.
Right, absolutely.
When I step on the gas on paid media, for example. But a lot of times it's getting them in the room and making them understand that they each have critical information that will help the other do better at their job. So I mentioned that marketing teams sharing with customer service so that they can staff correctly and be ready for an influx of inquiries. But the reverse is true too, is that what customer service is learning from talking to customers one-on-one can be fed back to marketing so that marketing can get smarter about either their marketing. Sometimes you get comments about, hey, I didn't like that ad, or I thought your TV commercial was offensive, or whatever it is. But it also helps them with products. And I've seen many companies that have created new products just by listening to feedback on social media. My favorite example of that is OtterBox, and I'm a customer of OtterBox who was listening on social media and heard a lot of people talking about bringing their phones into the shower to listen to music. That actually caused them to create their first waterproof case. This is a number of years ago, which became a really top seller for them. So it can help with understanding your feedback on marketing. It can help with ideas for new products. And probably most importantly is it helps identify customer pain points. And when customers are having pain points with you, no amount of marketing overcomes that. Right? If they're having an annoying experience or a frustrating experience with you, that experience has to get fixed. Otherwise, the marketing is going to be ignored. And so the companies that are doing this right are really listening and taking into account, hey, we've heard this same complaint about the mobile app a bunch of times now. We better sit down with the mobile app team and get this fixed, because not only is that going to improve the experience, it's going to lower our customer service costs because we're going to have fewer people complaining about this same complaint.
Absolutely. So it works for everybody. It works in all the departments that are involved in that. Awesome. So there are multiple articles, podcasts, people talking about social media marketing and what is best, what to do, what not to do. What do you think is maybe the number one or the top two really bad social media marketing habits that marketers should stop?
I think, honestly, the number one is not responding to customers. You know, social media is not a one-way marketing channel like virtually every other channel. I always say that what fascinated me about social media when I got into it is it was the first marketing channel where people can talk back. You can't talk back to a billboard. You can't talk back to a Super Bowl ad. You can't talk back to a direct mail piece, but you can talk back in social media. So marketers that ignore that, the ones that don't realize that social media has two words, social and media. You have to use both of those words to be effective. So the biggest mistake that marketers do is they forget the social part and they just think of it as another media channel where they can throw out their marketing and not pay attention to the people who are communicating back with them.
Absolutely. So you have those two elements, the social part and then the media part, and they both work together. What are a few creative techniques that you think social marketers can use to either keep audiences engaged or to get them engaged to begin with?
Well, it's sort of the opposite of what I just said, right? Which is to encourage people to communicate with you. I think is one of the best tips. And so I love when companies do things like put in, leverage the functionality on a Twitter, for example, to do polls or to ask questions of their customers, to actually encourage feedback from them and then to engage with that feedback, right? Today's consumers want a one-on-one relationship with the brands that they give their hard-earned money to. So the companies that have figured out how to do this on social and how to be specifically social about their marketing, I think are the ones that are really most effective. Think about when you scroll through your own feed, the posts that you stop and look at versus the posts scrolling through. Nobody wants to see a commercial on social media any more than they want to on their television, right? Which is why I'll fast forward through TV commercials when we can. And so the companies that have figured out, hey, I'm going to get my customers to participate with me. I think that on Instagram, different contests to get people to submit photos of people using their product or whatever it is fantastic because it's such an immersive experience and such a personal experience that then people can have with your brand. It doesn't even feel like marketing to them. And best of all, is you are creating an army of marketers for your brand. Because
Absolutely.
when they're sharing those pictures, when you're asking people to provide user-generated content, they're now doing your marketing job for you. And they're, as we all know, they're much more credible, right? We as consumers, we don't believe brands.
Right.
We don't trust brands, but we do trust our friends, our neighbors, our social, contacts. And when they're talking about it, we're much more likely to pay attention.
Awesome. So social marketing is really competing against more advanced marketing channels that have been around, for a while, decades, especially when it comes to getting budget allocation and return on investment. So how do you think marketers can make social marketing count in the long term?
I think the biggest thing is to not pretend that social is so different from those other channels. At the end of the day, although it is the only channel where people can talk back, it is still marketing. And marketing is measurable. I never understood for years all this discussion about, social media doesn't have an ROI. If it doesn't have an ROI, it's not going to get any budget.
Right, absolutely.
I've advised companies on this before, and social media teams, including my own. I led social media teams at 3 companies. That we're never going to get a budget if we can't show that it's worth something.
Right.
You can't just say that, well, we need a budget because everyone's in social, and so we have to be in social too. That's not good enough, right?
Doesn't make sense, yeah.
Yeah, not when you're competing against direct mail and email and website marketing, all of which have very clear ROIs. So I think the challenge is, and this is of critical importance, is to find out how social media is driving your business. And it's the number of followers that you have, and it's not the number of likes that you get. The number of people that are either buying your product because of social media or telling other people about your product because of social media. And I think that social media should be held to the same standard as those other channels, or it is going to continue to lose budget. I think for a long time it got it was in a nice little honeymoon period where every company said, yep, you're right, we have to be in social. Here's a bag of money. And now they're saying, well, hold on a second. We have all these advanced analytics and data, and we know how our other marketing channels are doing. So we expect to know how this channel is doing.
Absolutely. I
think that's a fair request. I know social media people don't always like it because they
no.
But I think that's really important.
Absolutely. So what are some of the key trends that you think will evolve within social media marketing or marketing in general over the next couple of years?
Well, I think obviously marketing in general is becoming more and more personalized, and I think that's going to continue, right? Is that ads that are put out there aimed at the masses are no longer nearly as effective as an ad that reminds me that I put an item in my cart yesterday.
Right.
Sitting, right? I mean, those are the ones that are working. I think with social, the biggest trend that I'm seeing is the movement away from public social to what I call private social. So this is like Twitter DM or Facebook Messenger, WeChat, all the messaging platforms. If you add up all of the daily users on messaging platforms, they're now actually more than the traditional social media channels. And I put traditional in air because social's not old enough to be traditional.
Right.
But these messaging platforms are absolutely growing at a massive pace. And I think this is great for both companies and for consumers. It's great for companies because they want consumers to engage with them in private. They would prefer that if I have a complaint that I do so in direct messaging and not out in public. It's great for consumers as well because the interaction is so easy. It's basically like texting a friend. It's back and forth. The entire history is there. You never have to repeat your question or repeat your account number because it's already there in the stream, even if you gave it to the company 6 months ago. So, and then also, as a consumer, you're not waiting on hold. You can basically leave your message, go about your day, and come back and get the response. It is the fastest and simplest channel to engage with companies. So I think that's where marketing is going to go also, because just like any other service channel that turns into, a cross-sell opportunity or an upsell opportunity, I think that's going to happen in messaging as well. And again, with a one-on-one experience, companies can really target that cross-sell to something that I care about because they know that I've bought the same brand of jeans for all these years, and they're going to recommend a pair of shoes to go with it. But it's not just any pair of shoes. It's the pair of shoes that Dan's going to like. And I think that is going to lead to increased sales and ROI broadly in the social channel.
Awesome. So speaking of personalization, one final question is, how do you think personalization will affect the way that conversational AI is making its way into marketing, conversational AI using chatbots and things like that? How do you think companies will use that as a way to be more effective when it comes to personalization?
Yeah, I think it's funny because when I think of personalization, I definitely don't think of talking with a robot. But that is, you're right in the sense that that is kind of what's been happening and what's coming. So for me, I think chatbots are great for answering typical questions that frankly somebody probably should be Googling anyway. You know, how many calories is in a Big Mac or something like that is a question that I think a robot can answer. Most customer inquiries are more complex than that. And I think that the difficulty is that some people don't want to talk to a computer. It's like when you call an 800 number and you get to the menu tree and you're just screaming operator, operator, operator.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I think the same thing is going to be true digitally, is that if a robot can answer my question, fantastic. But if they can't, my patience level is at 0 and I want somebody who can immediately. So the key thing is going to be that handoff. Is that the robots have to know, the chatbots have to know, okay, I can't answer this. This person needs a human. I'm going to get them a human immediately, not put them in a queue to wait for a human, but I'm going to get them a human immediately to take over this conversation. And I think that's going to provide the best experiences for consumers. The sort of flip angle of that is I believe that where AI is really going to help is by helping the agent become a better agent. So if you imagine a customer service person sitting next to like Watson from IBM, you know, which has the answer to basically every question that could ever be even conceived. Now that agent doesn't need to be searching for answers. They can be 100% focused on talking with the consumer and providing that personalized one-on-one engagement because the computer is doing all the heavy lifting in terms of finding the answer to the question.
Right.
We've all called and talked to agents on the phone before where you can tell they're distracted because they're sitting there, you know, typing, looking up the answer, trying to hold a conversation with you at the same time. But this is really hard to do. And so I think that's the opportunity is if we let AI take care of the finding the answer, then what we're left with is still a one-on-one human engagement, which I don't think is ever going to go away because most people, that's what they want, is they want to engage with another human being.
With another human being, absolutely. So it's been an awesome conversation, Dan. If you can tell our listeners where they can find out more about you.
Absolutely. I just launched a new website called dangingiss.com. It's DANGINGISS.com. That's where you can find out all about what I'm doing, keynote speaking and consulting about customer experience. And as you mentioned before, I'm also a regular contributor to Forbes. And I host my own podcast called Experience This with a buddy of mine, Joey Coleman. We have a ton of fun. Every week we highlight 3 different customer experiences and we talk about them and what makes them great. It's all positive and it all comes with takeaways on how you and your business can look for the opportunities to improve the customer experience and get people talking more positively about your brand.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan, for your time today and for sharing your insights. We really appreciate it. Guys, thanks for listening to this interview. For these and other interviews and topics, please visit techfunnel.com. You can connect with us across social, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our weekly newsletter so you can stay up to date on everything that's happening in the industry. Thank you.